There exists a unique silence, one that descends after years of relentless noise. It's not the mere absence of sound in an empty room. It's the silence of a phone you no longer feel compelled to check. Group chats you've quietly exited, leaving messages unread. It's the silence of birthdays that pass without a single digital greeting, and then comes the realization. You genuinely don't miss hearing from anyone at all. This wasn't a calculated plan. There wasn't a conscious decision to sever ties and burn every bridge in sight. It was gradual. One unanswered text after another, a string of declined invitations, until eventually you simply stopped pretending, stopped offering explanations. You ceased showing up for people who consistently failed to show up for you. Maybe this resonates with you. Maybe this describes you. The one who's perceived as cold, the one who's changed, the person who cut everyone off, the one whispered about at gatherings you're no longer invited to attend. But what they don't see is that you were already profoundly alone, long before you physically withdrew. You glance at your phone. Months have passed since you last exchanged texts with anyone. No birthday celebrations, no weekend getaways planned. Just you, your established routine, and an unexpected, strange sense of relief. When someone suggests hanging out, "I'm busy" used to be a mere excuse. Now it's a firm boundary. The key difference: you no longer feel the need to apologize for it. This transformation wasn't overnight. You didn't simply wake up one morning devoid of feeling. You awakened after years of being the dependable friend, the one who consistently showed up. You were the reliable one, years of driving hours to assist during someone else's crisis, remembering birthdays, genuinely listening when asking how people were doing. You were the person people turned to when they needed something. Then the tables turned. You needed something. You experienced your own crisis, your own breaking point, a lonely hour when you could no longer maintain composure. You reached out, you asked for help, and were met with silence. Perhaps a single person sent a perfunctory "sorry to hear that" text. Maybe someone promised to call but never did. Perhaps they were all simply too preoccupied at that particular moment. Here's what hurt the most. It wasn't merely that no one came to your aid. It was the stark realization, in that pivotal moment, of how profoundly alone you had always been. You had operated under the assumption that others were showing up for you, but you were mistaken. That's when the fundamental equation shifted. Every interaction became a cost-benefit analysis, one you didn't desire to conduct but couldn't prevent. How much energy would this require? What tangible return would I actually receive? The calculations ceased to make sense. You were pouring from an empty vessel into cups that were never truly empty to begin with. They simply desired more. So, you stopped pouring. People took notice, naturally. When you become unavailable, when you cease initiating texts, when you decline every invitation until they eventually cease arriving, people notice. They simply fail to understand why. The accusation started, "You've changed. You're so cold now. What happened to you?" They utter these words as an accusation, as if you owe them the version of yourself that was slowly withering away from excessive giving. They yearn for the old you, the one who readily agreed, who made time, who prioritized everyone else's needs. They fail to grasp that the old you couldn't survive. Your nervous system recognized a pattern long before your conscious mind did. Each time you opened yourself up to someone, each time you extended trust, each time you showed up with an open heart, you ultimately ended up alone, left to gather the shattered pieces. The pattern repeated: the friend who vanished when you became depressed, the partner who abandoned you when you needed them to stay, the family who was present for holidays but absent when you truly needed family support. Your brain began to anticipate the ending from the very beginning. Upon meeting someone new, starting to build a connection, a quiet inner voice would inevitably ask, "How long until this one leaves too?" This wasn't cynicism, it was simply data. So you began to control the single variable you could control: the exit. If everyone ultimately leaves, you decide when. You would sever ties before they had the chance to abandon you. Abandonment stings less when you are the one who initiates it. At least in this scenario, you anticipated it. Others may label it self-sabotage, but you consider it self-preservation. It's not a dramatic event. There is no grand confrontation, no final argument where you enumerate all of their wrongdoings. It's quieter than that. It looks like this: not responding to texts for days that morph into weeks that evolve into months. Declining invitations until your absence becomes the norm, and they stop extending them. Relocating to a new city and not informing anyone until you've already left. Deleting social media accounts without any announcement, without a goodbye, without affording anyone the opportunity to plead for you to stay. It's the slow fade, or at times the abrupt cut. Either way, you're gone. You happen to encounter someone you were once close to. They inquire about how you've been. You offer a simple, "Good, you?" Superficial pleasantries are exchanged. Internally, you're thinking, "We were never truly friends. We merely knew each other's names. We occupied the same physical space but never shared the same world." They never truly saw you. You simply performed a version of yourself that you believed they desired. And when that version became too weary to continue performing, there was nothing left. The truth that no one acknowledges is this: you were already alone in rooms filled with people. Being physically alone merely made the feeling align with the reality. Some people assume you harbor hatred toward them. The reality is far worse than that. You're indifferent. Hatred requires energy, necessitates caring enough to cling to anger. You've moved beyond that point. You're no longer running from them, you're simply done. They crave closure. They desire the conversation where you elucidate what transpired, where you enumerate their wrongdoings, where you grant them an opportunity to apologize, argue, or rectify the situation. But closure would necessitate explaining yourself to people who never listened. Closure would mean reopening wounds that have finally ceased bleeding. So you offer them nothing. Allow them to construct whatever narrative they need to construct about you. You won't be reading it. Here's what surprises you. It doesn't hurt as much as you anticipated. The solitary holidays, the birthdays that pass without any texts, the emergencies that you handle on your own because there's no one to call. You expected these to feel devastating. Instead, they merely feel quiet, and quiet has become your preferred sound. This pattern didn't originate in adulthood. Somewhere in your childhood, you learned that people either leave or inflict pain. Perhaps a parent was physically present but emotionally unavailable. Perhaps a home where love came with conditions you could never quite fulfill. Perhaps you were the child who learned to handle everything independently, because asking for help meant hearing, "Not now. Figure it out yourself," or worse, nothing at all. The early experiences that shaped you. Maybe you witnessed a parent walk out. Maybe you experienced divorce not as a tragic ending, but as proof that people don't stay, regardless of their promises. Maybe you were the child of parents who remained together but shouldn't have, who filled the house with silence or anger, teaching you that connection doesn't equate to safety. Or perhaps it was more subtle than that. Perhaps your emotional needs were simply inconvenient. You would return home from school upset about something, and the response was, "Don't be so sensitive. Other kids have it worse." Just a distracted, "That's nice, honey," while they scrolled through their phone. You learned that your feelings were a burden, that requiring emotional support was asking too much. You became the kid who stopped crying because crying made people uncomfortable, stopped asking for help with homework because the sighs and eye rolls hurt worse than struggling alone, learned to celebrate achievements quietly because enthusiasm annoyed people, or made siblings jealous, or reminded parents of their own failures. Those early experiences didn't merely hurt you, they shaped you. Your brain, still developing, still striving to make sense of the world, absorbed a fundamental lesson. Needing people is dangerous. Depending on someone means granting them the power to let you down. Connection equals eventual abandonment. Your nervous system adapted. It built protective mechanisms before you even understood what you were protecting. You became independent, not because you desired to be, but because you had to be. Self-sufficient, not as a choice, but as a matter of survival. The survival skills you developed. You learned to need no one because needing someone meant getting hurt. You learned to expect nothing because expecting anything meant disappointment. You became the kid who didn't ask for rides, who figured things out independently, who stopped inviting friends over because "my family is complicated" was easier than explaining why home didn't feel safe. You became skilled at reading rooms, detecting moods, knowing when to make yourself small or disappear entirely. Those early relationships became your blueprint. They drew the map of what connection looks like, what love feels like, what you can expect when you let someone in. Every adult relationship that followed merely confirmed the lesson. Eventually you'll be alone. Eventually you'll need someone and they won't show up. Eventually the love will run out, or come with too many conditions, or disappear when you stop being useful or entertaining or easy. Your brain wired itself around this truth. Connection became dangerous. Trust became expensive. Vulnerability became a risk you couldn't afford to take anymore. So, when you cut people off, you're not being cruel. You're being consistent with everything your life has taught you about how relationships end. The accusations sting nonetheless. You're too closed off. You don't let people in. You're afraid of intimacy. as if you haven't tried, as if you haven't spent years attempting to be different, to trust differently, to believe that maybe this time it would be different, as if you haven't forced yourself to be vulnerable again and again, hoping the outcome would change. It didn't change. The pattern repeated with different people. The friend you opened up to about your depression suddenly got busy every time you reached out. The partner who said they wanted all of you disappeared when you showed them the parts that weren't easy. The family member who promised they'd be there went silent when being there required actual effort. Same pattern, different people, identical ending. You remember the specific moments, the text you sent at 2 a.m. when you were falling apart, read but never answered, the phone call you made asking if they could talk. Can I call you back? And they never did. The crisis where you needed someone to just sit with you, and they said, I'm sorry you're going through this. Like you were a stranger, not someone they claimed to care about. You remember showing up to their emergencies, dropping everything, cancelling plans, driving across town at midnight because they needed you. Then when you needed them, suddenly everyone had reasons. Work is crazy right now. Going through my own stuff. I'm not good at this kind of thing. I don't know what to say. All valid statements that mean the same thing. You're on your own. So you stop trying. Not because you're broken, but because you finally started listening to what your nervous system has been screaming at you for years. This costs too much. The price of connection, the vulnerability, the hope, the inevitable disappointment is higher than what you're getting in return. You're spending emotional currency you don't have on people who aren't even checking the balance. You started doing the math. How many times did you reach out first versus them? How many conversations centered on their problems versus yours? How many times did you adjust your schedule, change your plans, sacrifice your needs? And how many times did they do the same? The data was devastating. You weren't in relationships. You were in performance contracts where you did all the performing. People don't understand why you choose isolation over connection. They don't see that for you. Isolation isn't the opposite of connection. It's the absence of rejection. It's the one space where you can't be abandoned because there's no one close enough to leave. It's not about hating people. It's about protecting the small part of yourself that's still capable of trust by refusing to spend it where it won't be honored. You became a detective of abandonment patterns. You can spot the signs now within the first few conversations. The warning signs you recognize immediately. The friend who only texts when they need something. You see it in how they never ask how you're doing. Just launch into their latest drama. The person who's present when life is good but gone when it gets hard. You notice how they're always available for fun but have 1,000 excuses when you're struggling. The relationships that feel like transactions where you're always the one paying. You feel it in your bones, that familiar weight of keeping score you wish you didn't have to keep. You see it coming from miles away, the moment when their responses get shorter, when let's hang out soon becomes a placeholder for never, when they start every text with an apology for not responding sooner, when you become the friend they'll definitely call when things calm down, but things never calm down. When you're always the one suggesting plans and they're always the one who would love to, but you know the pattern of someone slowly exiting your life. It starts with longer gaps between texts. Then the texts get more surface level, less, how are you actually doing? And more, hey, hope you're well. Then they stop responding to the real stuff. Then they stop responding at all. Then months pass. Then you're strangers who used to know each other's secrets. You've watched this pattern repeat with enough people that you stopped being surprised by it. Now you just cut it short. At the first sign, the first cancelled plan, the first distracted conversation, the first time you feel yourself trying too hard, you pull back. Not dramatically, just quietly. Stop initiating, stop trying, see if they notice. They rarely do. That tells you everything you need to know. So, you leave first. Not with anger, not with drama, just with the quiet knowing that you've been here before, and you already know how it ends. You've seen this movie too many times to sit through it again, hoping for a different ending. Some people say you've given up on people. They're wrong. You gave up on pretending that conditional acceptance is the same as being seen. You gave up on relationships where you have to shrink or perform or earn your place. You gave up on explaining yourself to people who were never trying to understand you. They were just waiting for you to admit you're the problem. You're not the problem. The real problem? For years, you accepted crumbs and called it connection. You accepted being someone's last choice and told yourself at least you made the list. You accepted love that came with fine print and convinced yourself that's just how it works. You normalized relationships where you did all the emotional labor, all the reaching out, all the caring, and told yourself it was enough that they Answered sometimes, showed up occasionally, remembered you existed when it was convenient, until one day you couldn't anymore. Cutting everyone off isn't giving up on connection. It's refusing to settle for the hollow version you've been handed over and over again. It's saying, if this is what relationships are, this constant one-sidedness, this endless performing, this waiting for people to show up who never do, then I'd rather have none. People call you cold. You're not cold. You're just done bleeding for people who never even noticed you were wounded. You're done performing emotional labor for relationships that only work when you're the one doing the work. You're done being the one who cares more, tries harder, stays longer, forgives faster, gives more chances. They say you've built walls, you built boundaries. There's a difference. Walls keep everyone out indiscriminately. Boundaries keep the wrong people out and give the right people, if they ever show up, a chance to matter. But after enough years of only the wrong people showing up, the boundary starts to look like a wall. Maybe it is. Maybe that's what survival looks like after you've been burned enough times. The loneliest you ever felt wasn't when you cut everyone off. It was before. It was sitting in a room full of friends and feeling invisible. It was being in a relationship and still feeling fundamentally alone. It was needing help and watching people look the other way, or offer hollow platitudes that made you feel worse for asking. It was the gap between what connection was supposed to feel like and what it actually felt like. Always giving, rarely receiving, constantly performing, never quite enough. The physical isolation didn't create the loneliness. It just stopped pretending the loneliness wasn't already there. You scroll through old photos sometimes, birthdays, group trips, nights out that look like friendship from the outside. You don't miss those people. You miss the version of yourself who still believed those connections were real, who thought if you just tried harder, cared more, gave enough, they'd finally show up for you the way you showed up for them, who hadn't yet learned that some people would take everything you offer and still act like you never gave them anything at all. That version of you almost didn't make it. She gave until there was nothing left to give. He poured himself into people who took and never thought to fill him back up. They nearly drowned in the emptiness of relationships that only flowed one direction. You saved yourself by leaving. People see it as running away. You know it's running toward something, toward peace, toward the kind of quiet that doesn't come from loneliness, but from finally choosing yourself. Toward a life where you're not constantly bracing for the next person to prove you're not worth staying for. Toward mornings where you don't wake up wondering which friend is going to let you down today. Maybe one day you'll try again. Maybe you'll meet someone who makes connection feel safe instead of terrifying. Maybe you'll find people who show up without you having to beg them to see you. Maybe you'll learn that not everyone leaves, not everyone takes, not everyone uses your vulnerability against you. Maybe. But right now, you're protecting the part of yourself that still remembers what it felt like to hope for more. You're keeping that small flame alive by refusing to let anyone blow it out again. Because the next disappointment might be the one that extinguishes it completely. And then you'd have nothing left, not even the possibility of trying again. Cutting everyone off isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of self-preservation. It's your nervous system finally saying enough. Enough performing, enough pretending, enough accepting less than you deserve, and calling it connection. Enough breaking yourself into smaller pieces so you'll fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You're not cold, you're not broken, you're not the villain in their stories, no matter what they say about you when you're not there to defend yourself. You're not the problem they made you believe you were every time a relationship failed, and they pointed to all the ways you were too much or not enough. You're just someone who learned the hard way that being alone is less lonely than being unseen in a crowd. Someone who chose quiet over chaos. Someone who finally stopped waiting for people to show up and started showing up for yourself. They'll say you cut everyone off like it's a character flaw, like you're missing out, like you're running from something. Like if you just gave people more chances, tried harder, were more forgiving, were less sensitive, things would be different. Let them say it. You know the truth. You gave chances, you tried, you forgave more than most. You were sensitive because you paid close attention, because you genuinely cared, because you consistently showed up and were present. You did everything that was expected of you, everything you were told would make a difference, and yet it still wasn't enough. The problem wasn't a lack of effort on your part, it was that you were giving your energy and dedication to people who never had any intention of reciprocating or meeting you halfway. You're not running away from anything, you're finally standing still, firmly planted in a space where no one can abandon or disappoint you, because you're the only one there. In this space, your worth isn't determined by who chooses to stay or who decides to leave. the silence isn't empty or devoid of meaning. It's filled with a profound sense of peace that you never experienced when you were surrounded by people who never truly saw you for who you are. This is the underlying psychology behind cutting ties with everyone. It's not about harboring hatred or resentment towards others. It's about cultivating a deep sense of self-love and valuing yourself enough to no longer accept mere scraps of affection or attention and try to convince yourself that they constitute a fulfilling feast. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most courageous and empowering thing you can do isn't to stay and exert more effort in a situation that's not serving you. It's about choosing to leave and finally prioritizing your own well-being and happiness. You're not being cold or heartless. You're being clear about what you need. You're not closed off or unapproachable. You're protected and safeguarding your energy. You're not giving up on the possibility of connection. You're simply refusing to accept the broken or inadequate version of it that has been repeatedly offered to you. Maybe that makes you difficult for some people to understand. Perhaps it turns you into someone others whisper about, someone they use as a cautionary example of what happens when you build walls, stop trying to please everyone, give up on people, but you possess a knowledge that they don't. Those walls are not barriers but lifelines, keeping you safe and secure. That sense of protection is what's allowing you to heal and recover. That conscious choice to walk away is what's finally providing you with the space you need to evolve into someone who might one day be ready to try again, but only on terms that honor your authentic self, not who others expect you to be. For now, you're here, in the quiet solitude, in the space you created by cutting away everything that was slowly draining your life force. It might not be the ending that others envisioned for you, but it's the ending that's preserving your wholeness and well-being. You're not being cold, you're surviving, and perhaps for the first time in your life, you're finally truly free. Free from the constant performance, the endless giving without receiving, the waiting for people who never show up, the accepting of crumbs and calling it love, free to finally just be. If this resonated with you, if you saw yourself in this story, I want you to know something. You're not alone in this. Thousands of people are walking the same path right now, healing from relationships that took more than they gave, learning that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. If you found this helpful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes we can't find the words to explain what we're going through. This video can be those words. Send it to someone who's struggling to understand why you've pulled away, or to someone who's considering doing the same. Your story matters, your healing matters, and you don't have to do this alone. Remember, choosing yourself is not abandonment. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. Walking away from what hurts you is not weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. The people who were meant to stay would have shown up. The ones who left when you stopped performing were never truly there. You're not cold, you're clear, you're not broken, you're healing, you're not running away, you're running toward yourself. And that person you're running toward, they've been waiting for you. They're worth protecting. I'll see you in the comments. See you tomorrow. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.